Welcome to the Track 5 International Student Opportunities. My name is Virawat Limurangrat. I'm from the College of Sports Science and Technology, Mahidol University, Thailand. So it took me almost 5,000 miles to flew here. And I'm still jet lag a little bit because right now in Thailand it's about, what time is it? 4 o'clock in the morning. So bear with me, okay? One of the purpose of these sessions, this track has Dr. Mark Roach try to get more like interactive, to get you guys if you're interested in the PhD or postdoc program for international. Okay. How many of you is master students right now and try to get to PhD? You guys are the PhD students? Masters? Are you already graduate? Okay, so you try to get to a PhD. Anybody graduate PhD try to get into the postdoc? Okay, at least 4 or 5 years that try this. I'm a little bit of myself. I'm graduate master degree at Georgia State University as a physical therapy. That's my master degree. Then I get to a PhD program in biomechanics. Okay, so I start ASSM came to the conference in 2000. Yeah, around 2000s. Yeah, and I graduated my PhD in 2005, which is long time ago compared to you guys at the start. And then I work as a part-time instructor for about a year at my school, and then I got a postdoc for 2 years at the Georgia Tech Institution of Technology. One of the tips is, I think in these days, you probably can search a lot of good school, PhD school. The tip for the master students try to get to the PhD program. Let me talk about that first. How about that? Okay. Are you already in the US program or no? So where are you from?
My name is Marissa Gibson Bailey, and I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean. Yeah.
That's very nice Caribbeans you have there. Okay. Anybody is master degrees? Right? Where are you from? Chile. Have you been to the United States program or no? Different, right? Okay. First thing first, you have to know your major, what you can try to get to. You exercise physiology, you the biomechanics, try to get to that program. So then you make the list. Okay. If you are the country that have the English native, use the English as an official language, you don't have to take any TOEFL or IELTS test, but you still have to take GRE, right? You know that, right? Yeah. So also depends on location. Like for me, I'm from the hot country, hot climate. I never thought I'm gonna go to upstate like New York. Not for me. So I don't know about Chile or Trinidad. If you would like to go to like have a lot of snows, so you would like to choose on those areas. So that's another thing that you have to consider on that thing too. Okay. Then come down to the school. Okay. You probably have to find your professor that doing research that you are interested in. You have the idea that you're going to go to, right? Like you're going to go to exercise physiology. There are a lot of good exercise physiology program in the United States. One of the advantage or benefit here is you will learn a lot of, you gain a lot of experience, especially in the research lab on that. Okay, come down to next list is letter of recommendation that you need to have it. And you should have a professor or your previous instructor that know you well and they write a good thing about you. Definitely. You don't know any professor, right? Okay, this is not very good student. I'm not. Or sometimes they write it as a fair. I mean that they're not really helping in that criteria. So that's another thing. That your letter of statement that what you want to do in the PhD program, it doesn't have to be a real research or dissertation that you're gonna definitely have to do that. But at least it gives the professor the idea what you're gonna do, try to do in the future. That's another thing. Okay. So when I graduate my master program, and then I'll look at those both exercise physiology and then biomechanics, but I think I'm good in math. And I really like to, a lot of calculation, things like that. I love to do the motion analysis things because that related to my previous master work. So that's what I try to get into the biomechanics more than the exercise physiology. Okay. Funding is possible in the USA, or you will get the teaching assistant or research assistantship. Pretty much they will give you tuition waiver, and they probably pay you a stipend. It depends on how much you get. Like if you're a TA, that's what they call it. Maybe you get $900, $1,000. Or RA, it depends on the grant also. I used to get like $1,500 a month from my professor and for the research assistantship, and I get the tuition waiver. I never have to pay for the tuition fee for my PhD forever for like 3-4 years. That's pretty much it. They pay for me, the school pay for me because I work for them. Okay, so that's keep in mind. But if they don't know you well, they're probably not going to give it to you the first year. It's very competitive right now, unless the professor have a lot of research grant. So they would like to hire a lot of assistants to help that. Good research school always have the good funding or grants. So keep that in mind too. It's not difficult to get that, but once sometimes they hesitate to give you the first time because they don't know you unless you have a good resume. That's another thing. If you have your names on the publication before, maybe it doesn't have to be the first author, maybe the last or the fourth or the fifth or the seventh authors, but at least they know that you've been doing research, helping in writing, things like that. So that's another tip. So maybe you get involved in the lab as during your master students, and then you get your names on that too. Sometimes they not give you as an author, this authorship, but they give you an acknowledgement, thanks, in the bottom. But that helps, a little bit helps get into the food program. Okay, that's a PhD. You can find, like ASSM, they have the jobs or posting. Also, you can find a job posting on the listserv, for example. I don't know much about the exercise physiology, but I do have some of those biomechanics listserv. I got some of those, if you can pass around. I got some more, if you need it. Those have both PhD and then the postdoc program. Sometimes they advertise in the even the research assistantship on the listserv as well. How many of you in exercise physiology? Just one. Exercise physiology? Oh, just you two. What about you? Part of it? Sport medicine? Okay. Okay. Biomechanics? Okay. They have the biomechanics interest group. You should join that. They will go see a lot of big names. Secret is they give free beer. That's why I joined that. just kidding. Every time that's a conference, you don't have not just come to listen to the whatever the presenter present, but you should get the network as well. If you know someone or that knows someone, that maybe you can get connection on that too. It's not polite to email directly to the professor and ask about research. You should find all the information first, and then maybe just get around, but not email him directly. What is your research doing? Things like that. Okay, because you should know him or your research that you want to do before to email him. Okay, and this conference has a lot of a big research name on, coming to present this. If you try to get them, to know you, you probably get a chance also. Biomechanics have what's it called, big BIG, biomedical interest group. I'm sure the nutrition has it too. They will get together in the evening. I think biomedical group is in Thursday, right? Do you know about that? You don't know about that? That will be in the book. It says, interest group. That's a Wednesday, yeah. And they have another interest group also. If you be able to join that, you will see a lot of people. Yeah. One time I joined nutrition. Nancy Clark is a big name for the nutrition. She wrote a lot of books on those nutrition and exercise physiology as well. Wednesday, May 28, 5:45 to 7:15, interest group meetings. If you find the time to get that too. Okay. All right. Postdoc position is very competitive also. They have a lot of websites like firepostdoc.com, postdocjobs.com that you can search on. Sometimes some school they don't post on this website. They will post it on their websites like Duke. If you go to and find those postdoc, they will have a lot of Duke University have a lot of postdoc positions on that as well. Again, a lot of listserv like biomedical listserv, they also sometimes advertise about the postdoc positions in that too. Sometimes they also cross posting, have the exercise physiology posting on that as well. So maybe you want to subscribe to that website or listserv so you will know when they advertise all those positions. Usually, I think it's March, they will let you know if you apply. They will let you know during the March. The latest maybe in June, July, things like that, if you get accepted or not. So, by most of the time is, but the postdoc will be different. It depends. Sometimes they advertise it, they will get it right away because they need people to work on that. Postdoc will help you, especially the newly graduate PhD, to get your publication up. Okay, if you have to find a good mentor, which will be along yours the same as your PhD research dissertation to get that. So when I work on my PhD, I'm working with the racing wheelchair. So what I try to do is I try to find a lot of postdoc position that related to wheelchair propulsion. Then I'll finally get at the Georgia Tech. What they have, this center is called Rehabilitation Research Engineering Research Center. So they do a lot, everything is related to wheelchair, and then they got the, I think it's NIH funding, National Institute of Health, for 5 years, $5 million. So they continue to get that second terms. Postdoc also teach you how to write a grant, which is if you can get your own grant, that will be positive to you when you finish your postdoc. It's not a permanent job, which it depends on those research funding is coming, but it's good for if you want to learn and then have the good mentor, so you can get a lot of publications up. And then I think the next section after this, the guy will talk about how to get for the international, we get the NIH and CDC opportunity for the funding on those. Because sometimes in the National Institute of Health and NSF, they have those funding for the postdoc fellowship, especially for the internationals. But I'm not really know much about that for the NIH. NSF, sometimes they have National Scientific Foundation. Sometimes they have those postdoc as well to post it on their website. If you go to nsf.gov, I think, .gov, and then you can looking for those positions available opportunity. Okay. I don't know the other guy, he's not coming, the first presenter. So if you have a lot of questions, Mark Roche can help me to answer all those questions. Anything you would like to know particularly?
Okay, sorry. I was just asking the question, what is the possibility of doing split site university PhD programs? Because currently my country is now installing the first physiological lab, and hopefully in the near future we want to be able to do research with well-established universities. So I'm wondering, being the performance analysis and testing officer there, what is the possibility of doing my PhD at home, but being able to collaborate with an international university?
A lot of university now has those collaboration now, right? So, for example, my college in Thailand, Mahidol University right now, we have the joint program with the Liverpool John Moore University in UK. So when they graduate, they will get the double degrees. So they spend half of time in Thailand, another half in UK. It depends on those your home university that they have those programs. Pretty much they have to establish memorandum of understanding, MOU first, and then they will get on those programs. I don't know about the Texas St. Mary University. Do they have those split program? We call it duo though. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So my name's Mark Rauch, and I used to work at NIH, and now I'm at a small university. And we don't have any PhDs except in counseling. But Bill Balke, another friend of mine, he's going to WashU, and he'll be over there working pretty soon. But a lot of schools do have those collaborations, and you'd have to check to see which schools your university's now participating with that might have a program like that, or you might be able to apply to one of the different universities that have an MD, PhD program. So you're getting your MD in your country and you want to do the PhD over at here in the U.S. Is that what you would like to do?
Actually, it's a government agency that is now established. It's a government agency. It's actually the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And they're establishing the first physiological lab. So we are like a sport company in itself. So it's not really a university, where we center all our national and Olympic athletes there, where we do testing. So the intention in the near future is to actually do research with a university. Currently, our local university, which is the University of Trinidad and Tobago and the University of the West Indies, doesn't really have a sports science program, but I guess it's their intention to. But what we are trying to do in that company is align ourselves with a university that is well established into sports science research to actually work with us, because sports science in the Caribbean is only now evolving, and we really want to be that center of attention there in my country. Yeah.
Yes, I understand your question. Kind of similar to what I'm doing with you guys. So while you're here, you want to kind of look around and meet some people who have a strong program at their university and see if they're willing to collaborate with you and explain what you're doing. We're working with Thailand right now, and I'm working with Texas A&M, and we're trying to develop one of those programs that we can help them. Yeah, so if you see a gentleman named Tim Lightfoot, I think he's speaking in another room, you can talk a little bit to him, or I can give you my card and we can talk a little bit more, and we can see how we can develop that. Anybody else have other questions?
Mark, let me add something. So there's lots of opportunities for international students to get research experiences here in this country, but they're often very institutional specific. So I am, for a couple more weeks, I am the program director for the Philippines California Advanced Research Institute at UCSF. And this is a series of initiatives that we at UCSF have organized with the Philippines, and it provides exactly some of the opportunities that you mentioned, where students from the Philippines in their graduate programs and in their professional school programs can spend some time, even a year or more, at UCSF in the laboratory doing science that will count towards their PhD from whatever university in the Philippines they happen to belong to. The way this is set up, it's kind of loose. It's not, I mean, the way to facilitate this isn't to send emails out or that sort of stuff. It's to go to a meeting, meet someone who's doing work in the area, talk to them during the networking sessions, over cocktails, whatever it is, get to know them, correspond with them after that, and then ask, can I spend 3 months, 6 months? Now, that works pretty well. One thing that will facilitate that kind of interaction is if your university or you yourself can pay for it. So, I run a basic science laboratory. If I've got a very talented potential postdoc or pre-doc who wants to come in my laboratory for 6 months or a year and work, and they have money from their university, from their tuition, and they come and want to work for free, that works really well. That's a nice calling card. So think about that as you set this up. It's a lot more difficult for U.S. students to do that, and in some cases, international students have an advantage over U.S. students in these kinds of settings. The only thing that investigators look for is enthusiasm and ability, and we see that in short supply in this country.
Let me just say, how many of you guys saw Barry's talk earlier? Did you come to the early one? And where you talked about enthusiasm and stuff like that? So if you're thinking about coming here to study and doing a postdoc or something like that, as you're hearing people speak and you learn about somebody and their lab and all that, make time to go up and talk to them and tell them that you're interested and introduce yourself, be enthusiastic, and exchange business cards or things like that, and see if you can come and see what kind of opportunities there are. And that's like the best way, as Bill was saying, to really get your foot in the door so they recognize a face to the person. And then if you send them an email, you say, hey, I remember talking to you at ASSM, you're not just a cold call email.
There isn't a week that goes by that I don't get a half a dozen emails from people I've never seen. They're in terrible English, terribly formatted, and I hit the delete button on every single one of them. But if it's somebody that I know, that I've met, that catches my attention. And I can only tell you in a related anecdote, when I was doing my medical training in Philadelphia at Penn, there was a laboratory at Harvard at the Brigham that I was really interested in. So I volunteered and went up there for a month when I was a third-year medical student, and I got to know the people. Then, 7 years later, when I was applying for cardiology fellowships, I went back and said, hey, you remember me? I'd like to come and do this. That got me in the door. So, even though that was all internal in this country, the same kind of principles work internationally as they do nationally.
Kyle, I talked before, so I think poster session is also a good, you can go up and talk to them, because sometimes after the oral, maybe a lot of people come up and ask a lot of questions on those presenters, but poster, you may get a chance to introduce yourself,
Yeah, just wait till the crowd funnels down and walk down the hallway with them and talk with them.
Right.
And the other thing that Bill said, make sure that your email is written really well, because the one thing about, and I see it in a lot of different international students that we have at our university, is your English writing skills. Because if you're going to come and be a postdoc, they're going to want you to publish. So they're going to want to talk to you over the telephone. Make sure your English is pretty well, you can communicate, and then they might say, well, let me see some of your writing. What have you published lately? And so they're going to want to know that you can write, because that's what they're going to go for.
So my suggestion is, if you want to do this sort of thing, and I think it's the great thing to do, by the way, because it will give you an advantage in your own country that most of your peers will not have. Plus, you'll get great training and you'll have a blast. You'll have an absolute blast. So let's say you're in Thailand or the Philippines and you want to do this. So how do you go about doing it? Well, first of all, you look at the papers of the people that have published in the area that you really like. And there must be a group or a laboratory that you follow that you say, boy, I wish I could do that. Or I thought of that, but they just had all the stuff to do it. Then you try to find out where those people are going to speak. FASAB, Gordon conferences, things like that are actually even better than the big American Heart Association stuff, all that other kind of crap where there's 3,000 people. You spend a week in New England at a Gordon conference or a FASAB conference where there's only like 100 people, and you can interact with people from this laboratory on a daily basis for 5 days. you're going to be remembered. The other thing is, if you yourself have published in the area, make sure when you go for these introductions, you have a little packet in your back pocket of all the things that you've published. Maybe a copy of your CV. I mean, you can always do it electronically, but having it in your hand saying, you know, I've been here at the Gordon Conference for the last 3 days. I love the science, ask questions. Oh, here's my stuff. I have self-funding to do a postdoc for 6 months or a year or longer. You're going to get a lot of attention.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question about the number of publications. Does that matter how many papers I published during my PhD to apply for a postdoc position in U.S.?
That's a great question, and it's a question that you can ask at almost every stage of your career. Assistant to associate and associate to professor, and there is no magic. It's the quality of the work that matters. So if you've got one paper, but it's a humdinger, and it's in Cell, or PNAS, or Science, or Nature, that's all you need. And you don't have to be first author. If you're second, third, fourth, or fifth, just make sure, or sixth or 12th, make sure you know it as if you were the first author. That's all that matters. When I interview people in the lab, I mean, yes, if they're first author, that matters, but if they're fourth and they can talk to me about this science as if they were the only author, that's all I care about. I want somebody who's invested, who knows the work, didn't just happen to run an assay on Saturday for 6 months and get their name on a paper. So, you know, I think that's what you have to show.
I think it's also valuable to know where you want to go and how the research you want to do will match up with the lab or the place you want to go. So, you know, say if it's in Bill does electrophysiology, and you've read a lot of his papers, you have one that's kind of similar to it, and you're saying, here's what I want to do, and here's how I think it can complement. And maybe it's a lab that didn't do any exercise stuff before, but they're cardiovascular lab, and you say, hey, you know, I'd really like to add an exercise intervention into the work that you're doing because here's what I think we can find out. So come with some good ideas that you would bring to that lab.
That's actually a great thought, because if you can actually add something of value to the lab, then you become even more valuable than just a worker bee. So to give you a very specific example, we're looking in our lab, we do a lot of EC coupling and confocal microscopy, voltage clamping. And we do normal physiology and also alterations that are provoked by hypertrophy and heart failure. But there's a lot of similarities between exercise-induced hypertrophy and pathologic-induced hypertrophy. Yet, there is no shortening of lifespan with exercise hypertrophy while there is with pathologic. So if you came to my lab and said, I want to do an exercise intervention and see what the differences are between ion channel activity in an exercised hypertrophied heart versus a hypertension hypertrophied heart, that would read music to my ears.
You don't have any questions? So you guys kind of like know the plan, what you're gonna do? Yeah. Visa? If you get accepted, you for the master to the PhD, you get the F1 visa. You have to be accepted by the school first. You will get those official letter to go to consular in your country and then get those visa. If you are postdoc, you will get the J1. J1, yeah.
Now, for U.S. funding, most of the NIH funding is not available to people that are on a visa. They're only available for permanent residents or U.S. citizens. However, there are some exceptions. That for people who are finishing their postdocs here in this country and want to go on and prepare for a junior faculty position, there is the K99R00 award, which is visa agnostic, meaning that you can be on a visa and get this award. It's one of the few NIH awards that's available for people on visas. There's other opportunities for people that are clinically trained that want to do science in a Veterans Administration Center, because then you can get your visa waived for as long as you work for the VA. A lot of people don't know that, and it's a great opportunity for people who want to do science and do some clinical care. A lot of the societies, like the Heart Association and other societies, are also visa agnostic. So there's many more funding mechanisms for you that you can apply for here, that even if you're on a visa. So if you were to come to my lab and say, you know, I want to come and I can pay for myself for 6 months and then I'll apply for American Heart Association fellowship or pre-doc fellowship or whatever, you know, that's very nice. And that shows a kind of ambition that most laboratory directors are looking for people that are going to give of their time and resources to help mentor. So you've thought about this. It shows you've thought about it. It shows you've invested into this, and you understand what the rules are. And I think there's lots of opportunities here. You know, the principal investigators of labs in this country vary, of course, like everything. But I personally really like individuals who come and say, I want to have 2 or 3 years of intensive science training here, and then I want to go home. Because I sort of see our role not only as educating our own students, but internationally. Science is an international thing. It's not parochial like our politics and our energy and all the other crap that we have to deal with. And it's very satisfying to deal with that. And I've had people in my lab from Spain and from Poland and from Russia, all over, and we stay in touch for years and years and years, and we still communicate. So it's a real, I know it's a hackneyed phrase, but it is, in science for sure, it's a global village. And you should find a lot of people very receptive.
Yeah, I agree. We talk the same language all over the world. Science, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How many what?
Postdoc. Position, yes, available.
Well, you know, that's also very institution specific. It's very laboratory specific. Some institutions have a very deep and broad pool of postdocs for the available positions. At UCSF, we have lots of people apply. At Wash U and Barnes Jewish, I mean, I'm up to my kneecaps in potential postdocs. Other institutions that are very good, for lots of reasons, don't have the pool. So if you're qualified and enthusiastic and you do all the things that you just heard about, you could really stand out. Now, that doesn't mean you have to settle for quality or settle for lower quality. They're just, some people don't want to move to Minnesota. University of Minnesota is a great place. University of Chicago is a fabulous place. And there's just, you know, they're a lot harder to recruit to in those institutions, but you'll get a fabulous education. So as long as you understand that and are willing to go where the science is and not stuck on living in the Bay Area, which I think you'd be crazy at, having lived there for 5 years. I can't wait to get out of it. But as long as you're not stuck in that mode, you know, your opportunities are endless. There are more opportunities than available positions. You just have to be able to be geographically, you know, fluid in your choices. Now, I can understand you're not going to want to go to Montana for a lot of reasons. Not only are the winters terrible, but there's not a lot of real science there. But there's lots of other places that you should be able to get a good job.
I agree. I'm not going to go to Montana.
Well, I will say, Time did, with all this global warming stuff, Time did a little survey of areas in the United States that are, they rank them by the occurrence of natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, floods, that sort of stuff. There's only one area in the entire United States that has none of these, and it happens to be Montana. But you know, that in and of itself would not get me to Montana. I hope there's nobody here from Montana. But if you are, it's a beautiful state, and
If you like, you get more a good chance to get in.
Well, I can see there's a lot of environmental research you can do.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Cool. Got any more questions?
Hi, my name is Baruch. I'm from Israel. My question is regarding funding opportunities. Besides, you mentioned from NIH for postdoc positions in the United States.
The NIH has a lot of mechanisms for postdoc education, but again, they're almost all limited to permanent residents or citizens. And they include the F-32 is the signature postdoc support mechanism for students. It's a very nice award. You can apply for it with a PhD or with a professional degree, an MD, DDS. If you're an RN with a PhD, you can apply for it, a speech pathologist, that sort of stuff. They're usually for 2 years. They can be extended for a third year. It's a nice award. It pays a little bit for research, but it pays for your tuition and your courses, and it gives you salary, and it's very prestigious. And it's a nice first step to the cascade of other awards that are available from the NIH for career development. So you can transition from an F-32 into a K and that sort of stuff, and also going from Ks to Rs. If you're from Israel, though, there's some and I don't know the details of this, but there's a lot of very special programs because of a very close relationship between Israel and this country that you would be eligible for that most other people would not be, including me. And I would suggest that you really explore those. There's some universities here in this country, particularly in New York City, that have very close ties to their Israeli sister schools that allow people to go back and forth in a way that is not typical. So I would really explore that. I can't give you much information about it, but your grants officers at your university should. My mentor was from Israel, was from Haifa, so I learned a lot from all of this. And he came to the United States for several years and trained me along with a number of other people. So it's a really rich environment. You're very lucky, actually. Just scratch the surface.
But NSF is allowed J1, right?
Yes.
I think it's, you can, if they got the grant from National Scientific Foundation, NSF, they allowed like J1 to get those postdoc. After you graduate PhD, you have the time period for 1 year for the practical training. So those are the time period that you can, try to working or,
The only problem with the NSF is they're really not that sympathetic for health-related, disease-related activities. It's more rock gut basic science, and so you got to be a little careful about that. They're not interested in you developing vaccines or anything that could possibly be used to help the well-being of people. Don't ask me. I guess their logic is the NIH is so big and does all of that. They want to do something different, and I can respect that.
Any other question? You like this session to be more interactive? You just ask question, and if we can answer, we'll be happy to answer that.
I guess the only other advice I would give you all is as you're contemplating these sorts of things, don't be shy about calling representatives at the NIH, program officers, study section officers. They can give you lots of information. Unlike most U.S. government agencies, they're very friendly and they're very knowledgeable. And I spent 6 months when I was starting my career just going to the NIH, meeting people and talking to various representatives and learning what the institutes offered and whether my work was going to be compatible with the institutes. And I even remember when I got settled in on the kind of grant mechanism I was going to apply for, I sent my specific aims page to the program officer and said, does this make sense? Does this compatible with the institute? And I got a lot of great advice. So there are a few people that aren't too friendly, but by and large, 99% of them are really friendly. And take advantage of them. You'll learn a lot. And they're good people. I still stay in touch with my study office, my program officer, from when I was a postdoc applying for grants. It's been a very warm and rich experience.
เจ็บมาก yeah sure
I have a master's degree. My wife does. They from Chile. We don't have any funding for travel to the States to do a PhD. But I'd like to know if it's or it's a bad thing that we both like to come here for laboratory. Is it attractive that we both like to come to the laboratory for research, like you would like to PhD, or is it like you just like one of you, or if I, for example, she is in the association here, by mechanics, so we cannot work in the same lab that you have. So there are two professors that might be working in two labs near each other. So we would like to apply to that, but if we only get one of them, exactly what we need to get both.
Well,
that's
I mean, that's a very complex question,
Yeah.
but many academic institutions in this country are very used to having professional couples. So when one gets hired, they often work very hard to find a position for the other. There are several questions embedded in that, but one of them is how would a program here in this country receive the fact that both he and his wife are masters prepared scientists who want to go on to do PhDs, and would that be attractive in an institution, or would it be a detriment to have both? Most major institutions are very receptive to this. I mean, you both have to meet the qualifications. They're not, I mean, if you're a straight A student and your wife just squeaked by with D's or vice versa, they're not going to make exceptions. But if you're both qualified, and you can go through the admissions process, most places welcome couples, certainly don't discriminate against them, and accept international students. So as long as you can somehow, get away from your country and pay for this, you won't find that a detriment. I know labs where husbands and wives have worked together side by side. I have a wonderful marriage. I would kill my wife if I worked right next to her. Well, or she'd kill me actually. So I will let you solve that one. But I don't think you will not find necessarily an institutional prescription against training and working together with your spouse here. Now, obviously, you will find institutions that will not allow one of you to supervise the other. I mean, that's kind of, but you're not in that position. So I would be kind of open about this, and it's not going to be a barrier. It shouldn't be a barrier. And if it's a barrier, go to another institution.
Okay, I think it's almost the time now. We have to conclude this. Once again, thanks for coming. If you see me or views, if you want to ask any question, you can ask. Also, don't forget to networking a lot. Just go up and try to find those. Last comment? All right, thank you. Thank you very much.